Hello, ladies and gentlemen. It's a Ukrainian show on Pod TV. My name is Sasha Star, and we have a special guest today, Ivan Kucherenko from Kiev, Ukraine. Welcome to the show, Ivan.
Hello, Sasha. Hello to everyone. Nice to be here with you.
Yes, it's nice to see you. And I would like to ask, with all the recent political development in the United States as the election is concerned, how people in Ukraine or in Kiev actually feel about this? What is on their mind? What are their predictions? What is their feeling?
Actually, Ukrainians have never had such a exact opinion about any elections in any other countries. We've always been in our internal activities, in our whole internal political life, but because so much now depends on who actually will come to power in countries of our allies, especially in United States. Of course, we look with hope, with cautious towards election process, we think that the future president of the United States, we don't know who it will be, but will not stop helping Ukraine in this war which Russia provoked.
Hmm. Okay. What is your personal opinion on this election with Kamala Harris replacing Joe Biden? How you feel about this?
It was a pretty nice surprise, and I see I see how those people who support Democratic Party in the United States are happy about this change that Joe Biden decided to resign from this political struggle, and that Kamala Harris is a pretty new face in these presidential elections. Actually, in Ukraine, we know this situation when you have not so much choice to elect from in the elections in 2010, I guess, when Ukrainians didn't have much choice to elect from them, and a lot of people just ignored the elections. Viktor Yanukovych got the majority of votes and became the president of Ukraine, and we all know what consequences it led to. So when during the previous stage of presidential campaign in the United States, for some part of Americans, probably it was not a great possibility to choose from those two candidates because somebody didn't support Trump and other part didn't want Biden to become president again. And I think that this change to Kamala Harris as a candidate from Democratic Party actually gives a possibility of great choice to a large number of Americans. But it's only my opinion.
Okay.
Actually.
A couple of things. First of all, I would like to bring to the show Shakil Latimer from Australia. He's done last week Ukrainian show already. He's in the financial industry. Usually say he's a $1 billion fund manager, and sometimes maybe it's already $10 billion fund manager. So I don't want to make a mistake. Shakil, welcome to the show.
Thank you. It was never quite 10. In my dreams it was, but not quite reality. But thank you very much.
Yeah, you're welcome. And second, Ivan, I would like to see the movies that you prepared for the show, okay? And then we'll go
Yeah,
from there. Thank you.
sure. Let's start with it.
These shots were taken in Denmark in February. It shows the first 6 Ukrainian pilots and several dozen technicians going through training exercises on F-16 fighter jets.
I think I can speak of everybody who's training from the old Soviet-made platforms to the Western. Is the really problematic is avionics, like all the system computers. They're much easier to fly, like pilot-wise. It's really awesome jet to fly. We didn't use that system whatsoever before, and it's like transitioning from the key telephone, like old Nokia, to straight to iPhone without all those steps in between.
But waiting for F-16s doesn't mean that Ukraine will stop all operations in the sky until it gets them. Infantry is at the forefront of every battle, and progress would barely be possible without cover from the skies. Mi-8 helicopters are the backbone of the Ukrainian Army's aviation. To upgrade and maintain the combat capabilities of these aircraft, engineers have to search for parts all over the country and beyond.
My position is called the head of the technical and operational part of the helicopter unit. I'm responsible for 4 aircraft. I, along with my onboard and aviation technicians, maintain the technical condition and combat readiness of the helicopters. This one is called Mi-17V5, but this is an export name. In fact, it's an Mi-8 MTV5. This one is from 2012.
Mi-24s are Ukraine's main attack helicopters. When dealing with an enemy that has air superiority, pilots have to avoid being tracked by their radars. To do that, they fly extremely low.
It's a unit with Hydra 70 rockets. I believe that this is what Army aviation needs, and in large numbers. They help us on the battlefield, and we, in turn, help the infantry.
For now, the MiG-29 is the main Ukrainian fighter jet. From the moment the pilot receives a command to eliminate the threat, it usually takes 8 to 12 minutes to get the plane up into the sky.
Historically, the MiG-29 is not suited to defeat small-sized targets such as Shaheds or cruise missiles because the avionics and the radar system of the aircraft are not that advanced. Still, we manage, and we're quite efficient, but it is certainly difficult. It all lies on the shoulders of the pilot. He has to detect these targets via eyesight, and it's the pilot who has the final say on whether to eliminate the target or not, although he may not know for sure what he's seeing. Absolutely, the F-16s will make us stronger. Right now, even when we operate with what's available, being outnumbered and outdated in terms of technology, we still manage. If we at least equalize our capabilities in terms of detection and attack, I'm more than sure that this will lead to them being pushed far, far beyond their borders, nowhere close to ours.
It is really super fun jet to fly. I'm not saying that MiG that I flew before is super boring, but the F-16 is definitely more agile. It feels like the jet wants you to fly it more aggressively. He wants you, hey dude, let's do this, let's do that.
The first F-16 fighter jets will be deployed this summer. While this is a good start, many more are needed to enhance Ukraine's defense and defense capabilities on the battlefield.
Ivan, thank you. It's a very good production, and it shows capability of Ukrainian army and its aviation as well. And Shakil, do you think that Russia could defeat Ukraine with such a magnificent people operating this avionics and overall army?
I don't think Russia's going to be able to defeat Ukraine at all. With or without that technology, actually. I don't think Russia's going to defeat Ukraine at all. But I would be very pleased if Russia was pushed back completely. And I think that will happen because it's not sustainable. But what's the end game? Forget about from the Ukrainian perspective, from the Russian perspective. What's the end game here? You're never going to get the respect of the international community, and you're never going to win over the hearts of the people that live in the Ukraine. All you've done is you've incensed them against you. So this is just not going to work. And I hope that this war finishes sooner rather than later. But I'll repeat what I've said before. I really just wish that the West would get involved. If the West got involved, this thing's over straight away. But, we're giving you guys weaponry, we're giving you funding, but we're not actually giving you ourselves. And we have gone to protect other people for less. If the whole West came in with all of its military might, Russia's got no choice but to fold. So why aren't we? I think we should.
Well, that's an interesting situation, Shaquille. We discussed it on our last program. And we discussed basically, because there are legacy of Joe Biden, and that's to be seen in the West as a Biden's war. Because, Kamala was his vice president, his little say one way or another, and Trump was not in the office when the war started. So basically, all responsibility for success or failure of that war from the U.S. point of view is with Biden. And what we discussed, his legacy is very controversial, because on one side, he was able to front a quite credible coalition of Western countries, including NATO countries. He was successful at that. On the other hand, he was very inefficient to, first of all, formulate what is the end result, where U.S., by applying so many efforts, financial and military or so on, so where is the end? What United States considers as a victory in the war for Ukraine and for U.S. just as well, and all the NATO countries and so on. He was not clear. And I think, Shaquille, correct me if I'm wrong, I think Congress asked him around April to produce a document which is compartmentalized the U.S. involvement and what it sees as the success, the end result, or so on. And that document, to my opinion, was never produced. So the help was very sporadic, and sometimes it was coming late, and so on. So how to evaluate the Biden's contribution to success or failure of this war?
Look, as you know, and as I think we all know, the United States is very divided politically at the moment. A very difficult position for them right now. I hope that they're able to get past it. What disappoints me is not just the United States. What disappoints me is our countries. If you listen to US media, it's always the US that's, the leader of the world, and, they've got the most amount of freedom and all that sort of stuff. And it's not true. That they don't go into any fight without the support of all of their allies. So when people in Australia and the UK complained about the Afghanistan withdrawal, my response was, well, why doesn't the Prime Minister of the UK and the Prime Minister of Australia and the Prime Minister of Canada say, actually, yeah, no, we're not okay with that, we're going back in? But why are we forced to acquiesce to whatever the American wants to do? So that, to me, is an even greater comment to make in relation to the Ukraine. The Ukraine is geographically much closer to Europe. If America is dropping the ball in our eyes, then why don't we do something? What's America going to do? America's not going to say no. If the UK, let's just take the UK, France, Canada, and Australia. If those four countries said, we are going to take a stronger stance in the Ukraine, is America just going to sit back and do nothing? I don't think so. Is America going to try and put sanctions on us? Of course not. So maybe if we don't feel that America's doing enough, and if we feel that America is too divided, maybe it rests on our shoulders to get involved. And, the NATO countries are not just the United States. The NATO countries are predominantly all of Europe. So maybe all of Europe needs to say, actually, okay, we're going to step in. At some point, we need to step in, because the longer this goes in, the more damage is done to the Ukrainian people. And at the end of the day, whatever the history is between the Ukraine and Russia and what land should be what, the Ukraine is recognised as being a country. They've been attacked, whether that is in part because of its attempt to be more involved in Europe or not. The point of the matter is they've been attacked. Their sovereignty has been infringed upon. And if we stand for anything, we need to take stronger action. We can't just sit there and just go, well, we're going to give you some money, we'll give you some weapons, but we're not going to get involved. That's not okay. And I'll just say this again. One of the most offensive things that I think is that if Russia was to attack Finland or Norway or any of those sorts of countries, what do you think would happen? Do you think Europe would do nothing about it and just give them some weapons? Of course not. Everybody would rush up there. So what are we saying to the Ukrainians? You don't matter enough? That's not acceptable. As a citizen of the UK, somebody who lives in Europe, somebody who is an Australian citizen, I think that this is completely unacceptable. We need to do more.
Shakil, wait a sec. There are some inconsistencies in what you just proposed. First of all, when the war started, the staunchest supporter of Ukraine for quite a while was United Kingdom, when Boris Johnson still prime minister and so on. Now, Biden was successful in unite the coalition of NATO countries and European countries and so on. So it's not that Biden, actually what you're proposing is probably more realistic scenario if Trump would have been a president who says Ukraine is not our department, it's not something that we should be concerned, let them figure out themselves, whatever. And then European countries and NATO, they would drag sooner or later America into this conflict, even if Trump would be at power. But here was from the beginning of the conflict, it was Biden who was at the power in the United States, and Biden actually went forward and united the European countries, and he actually proposed very strong actions, including financial and other sanctions against Russia, and so on. So you can't say that America unwillingly was sort of brought into this war. America was, in some ways, it's just inconsistency of Biden's policy. That at one point he united European countries and he made a strong effort to inflict damage on Russia as much as possible. And on the other hand, he was inconsistent as delaying and in many cases about the arms. Ivan, correct me if I'm wrong. I think it was first again UK who first brought the tanks and.
If I can just quickly say in relation to Biden, helping to unify NATO nations. Look, there was some disunity when Trump was there. Some of it maybe was rightfully so because they weren't contributing enough. Some of it wasn't. But that's all political issues for the United States. All I am trying to express is that, as you said, yes, the UK did a lot. But what I'm trying to express is that NATO countries seem to be taking America's lead on this, which means that the NATO countries are to the whims and fancies of both the American electorate and also a divided American Congress. Why? If America is not responding in a way that the other nations think would be better, then those other nations should just step up. And I say that because I think a lot of those nations go, we don't want to upset America. Well, who cares? If you upset America, what are they going to do? They're not going to attack us. So if you upset America, I think they'll quickly fall in line because they'll be subjected to immense international pressure. What's happening is you've got, multiple countries and an entire continent that won't do anything unless America says it's okay. And that subjects us to their political issues. No, let's just deal with it. The Ukraine shouldn't be in the position that it's in. They shouldn't be having this extended, elongated war with Russia. And this could end immediately if the rest of us just stood up and said, right, we're going in. So as brilliant as it is, that and as brave as it is, that the Ukrainians have stood up and have fought as valiantly as they have, this would be over. Forget about the United States, if the NATO countries went in without the United States, this would be over. But if we started to do that, the US would very, very quickly fall into line, in my opinion.
I just, gentlemen, I just wanted to show you some interesting graphics, and actually it shows. Let me share screen and tell me if you see it. Probably no. Okay, I will try to explain. It's graphics about the percentage of help to Ukraine comparing to GDP of countries. And for instance, it's the data for the end of 2022. But according to it, a very small country like Latvia or Estonia, who are close to Russia, they donated almost 1% of their GDP to military help to Ukraine, while United States with or Great Britain with the much greater potential, they donated like 0.25 of their percent of their GDP, and it's a quite simple mathematics example when, for instance, Donald Trump says, and it's a rule of NATO countries who are joining the NATO, that they must spend around 2% of their GDP for the military expenses, and now European countries are spending much lesser of those, and Donald Trump during his political campaign said that if European countries will not increase the spend up to 2% of their GDP for NATO, United States will exit NATO or something like that. But why NATO needs those actually military expenses? Now NATO claims that Russia is their major opponent and major threat to NATO, and Ukraine for more than 2 years is step by step destroying the military potential of Russia. Russia got less and less of their tanks. They got less and less of their guns, less and less of their other stocks of weapons, which they've actually got from the Soviet Union. And this costs NATO and the United States, according to the military help they donate to Ukraine, much more less than those 2% of their GDP. So it's a great example of saving actually military budgets of United States, of European countries, of NATO, and the same way destroying the military potential of Russia using Ukraine's actually. Of course, I agree with you, Shakil, that if those countries would join Ukraine in this war directly by getting their troops and getting their all their military potential, then Russia will lose immediately, because it will not be able to stand against the united military potential of Western countries. But the answer why this war lasts for so long and why it can be finished actually quicker is in this simple mathematics, because Western countries don't donate to Ukraine the actual amount of weapons which Ukraine is required according to the plans and rules of NATO itself. If every country, including United States, would donate to Ukraine like those 2% of GDP of military help, then probably Ukraine didn't have any lack of weapons, of airplanes, of missiles and ammunition, whatever. But the truth, unfortunately, is that while achieving the strategic goals of NATO in destroying the Russian military potential, the Western allies donate pretty less of their GDP to Ukraine than they actually should spend on NATO expenses.
I don't think that that's realistic for the countries to donate, a couple of percent directly of their GDP directly to the Ukraine. But the point I'm making is this: instead of spending the money on their own military, they've tried to cut that from their budgets, which means that they don't have as much military. I tried to bring this up last week, that it's not like this was a surprise that Russia was going to try and do this, that Putin was going to try and do this. We knew that this was a problem that was brewing, and there's things that we could have done. Now, if we had NATO countries, especially in Europe, spending 2% of their GDP on military, we could have very easily afforded to be able to deploy military people along the border of the Ukraine. Would Russia have ever had the guts to come in and attack Ukraine if Western military were there? Not because we're taking offensive action, it's defensive action. If we're already there, then you know that they're not going to come in. So what I'm saying is I do blame. I'm not trying to leave the responsibility of Putin or Russia, but I do blame the West for allowing this to, one, happen, and two, to allow it to go on for as long as it has. I think the Ukrainians have every right to have expected better and more from the West. And I think that the longer this goes on, we in the West know that we can click our fingers and end this tomorrow by military intervention or some other methodology. And we haven't done it. And I think that is unacceptable. And I hope that the big, powerful Western countries start saying, okay, this has gone on too long. Enough is enough. We're going to go in.
Shakil, I agree with you on that. And I would like to make one point before we finish our program, that there are a lot of talks about some kind of peaceful agreement and that Russia would be brought to the table and so on. I would like to comment on that Russia's economy is now 100% is oriented on the military needs of the country, or it's not really needs of the country, it needs of Putin himself, because nobody knows what country needs, but we know what Putin needs. Putin doesn't want a peace. Putin doesn't want to end the war, because the war itself, that's the purpose of what's Putin doing. He can survive only in case if there is a permanent war, and it doesn't have to be Ukraine, it could be just anybody else, but there must be a war for Putin to mobilize his population, to be effective ruler of the country. And this is why, in my opinion, any talks about ending the war and bringing Putin to the table, or a peaceful conference or anything like this, is a colossal waste of time. First of all, you're bringing a war criminal to the table to talk to other civilized countries. Why would you do that? Ivan, tell me, what's your opinion on these peaceful initiatives to end the war?
I completely agree with you, Sasha, because all this, like our dear Jonathan likes to say, all those talks about some kind of peace agreement, they're actually not peace, but peacement, because it will be a temporary ceasefire, and Russia will use this time to gather more troops and then attack Ukraine again, or probably they will dare to directly confront NATO, seeing how slowly NATO and Western countries are reacting to Russian aggression and Russian provocations. When NATO will gather and discuss those 5 paragraphs of NATO's chart, Russia will be able to conquer Baltic countries for that period of time, and then it will be it will require much more resources to recapture them, those countries back, or probably no. So Putin is not interested in actually in any peace because he didn't achieve goals of his so-called special military operations yet. He wants to Ukraine to be demilitarized. He wants Ukraine to be ruled by his puppet government, what he calls by denazifications. He doesn't want Ukraine to be ruled by the democratic government elected by Ukrainians and pro-Ukrainian government. He just wants to put one of his puppet politicians to rule Ukraine, and his major goal is to restore the previous Russian Empire or Soviet Union in their borders, and it's not possible without Ukraine. So of course, he's interested in ceasefire and some kind of peacement because Russia don't have so much potential to keep this war at the same pace for a long period of time. But he's not interested in actually peace. He's not interested in giving back Ukraine occupied territories. He's not interested to giving back to Ukraine kidnapped children. He is not interested to give to Ukraine and to international court the war criminals, because as you, Sasha, said, he is a war criminal himself. So there will not be any justice in this peace because war criminals will not be punished. Ukraine will not get back occupied territories and will not get back the kidnapped children and kidnapped citizens, probably, and also a great question of reparations, because Russia already made damage to Ukraine infrastructure and Ukrainians much more than the number of Russian assets which were frozen in European countries and the United States. It's like more than $500 billion already of, or even more of direct damage inflicted to Ukraine. And the amount of Russian assets is like $300 or $400 billion. So they will not cover if Western countries and the European Union will at least decide to give those frozen assets to Ukraine. They will not cover the exact amount of damage. So there is a question who will pay for that. And this is a really open question. I think that this war can be ended by a peace agreement only the way the First World War ended, when Germany was not actually defeated on the battlefield, but the internal political situation in Germany, the lack of their resources, and the problems in economy of Germany during the First World War made Germany to sign those peace agreement and actually become a country which was defeated during the First World War. So this war can be ended only like this.
Ivan, it's a unique situation about Germany's defeat in First World War, is that the Germany of all the countries who were part of First World War, the Germany was the only one country that no foreign soldier ever stepped on the soil of Germany. So Germany, when they said about their capitulation, German people were in horror. They could not understand how they could lose the war if they were never invaded. There was never a foreign soldier on its soil. So France was occupied. Austro-Hungarian Empire completely collapsed. Russia was completely collapsed. So Germany was untouched. Also, UK was untouched, but UK was a winner and Germany was a loser. How could that? So this conspiracy between the communists and the Jews and whoever they blame, but that's the only way how they could defeat Germany.
It was a consequences of their war, and that their economy didn't manage to keep this war forever. And actually, if you didn't read the novel by Erich Maria Remarque, All Quiet on the Western Front, I really advise to watch a film on Netflix. There is a really great film on Netflix with the same title, All Quiet on the Western Front, and there is a moment when Germany actually signed those peace agreement, and they tried to bargain about it, not to accept all the conditions which allies put towards Germany, but they had no exit to sign that agreement on the way it was proposed, because they just couldn't keep this war forever, and they had no resources to continue this war. And if they actually didn't sign this agreement, then probably they will not be able to support their army. Their army will surrender. The troops of allies would actually march the Germany land and capture the capital of Germany, the Berlin, and then it was not a kind of peace agreement, but it was a treaty of capitulation. What actually happened during the Second World War, because if Hitler probably at some moment said, okay, I'm going to sign a peace agreement, then probably there was no occupation of Germany, of Berlin, etc. Then probably the war could be stopped without any heavy bombardment of Germany, without all those heavy losses. But nobody wanted in the Nazi Germany government to sign those kind of, or even to discuss such kind of peace agreement. And but Russo-Ukrainian war can't end in this way, because Western allies actually are not in war with Russia by their troops, by their forces. And Ukrainians, we ourselves don't have any possibility to get to Moscow, to destroy Kremlin ourselves, and to make Russia capitulate. So for now, the only one exit from this war, and only one exit of only one opportunity for any peace agreement is to make Russia one moment understand that they just can't continue this war, and that their economy is ruined. They have no resources, and if they will continue this war, the consequences will be much more worse than in case they will actually say, okay, we are capitulating, we are going to sign any peace agreement, we are leaving occupied Ukrainian territories, we are going to give you some war criminals, we are going to pay you reparations for all those damage, we're really sorry, and all that stuff. So,
well, that's a case when Russia has to recognize that it's costlier to continue the war than to end the war. It's very mathematical equation. That's all there is to it.
I don't think it's realistic that Russia will ever pay reparations to the Ukrainians, which will be ever enough to recover what was lost financially. But certainly, an end of the war, even without that, would be a positive first step. And then I think the international community can come in and help to rebuild the Ukraine.
But you see, Shaquille, first of all, certain developments happened just in the last couple of weeks. Number one is that the first payment of the Russian frozen funds in Europe is just an interest on this money, was already transferred to Ukraine. So indirectly, Russia has already, unwillingly though, but started to already paying some money. It's not nearly enough.
But I don't think there's going to be enough. But I don't think that a peace agreement needs to be contingent on a commitment for reparations. Let's end the war first. Let's restore the sovereignty of the Ukraine. We can deal with the financial fallout later. And at the end of the day, $500 billion is not nothing. But even if the rest of the world needed to do that, then the rest of the world will take advantage of the massive resources that Russia has, and Russia has nothing to say. They can't do anything. This seems to be the history of what we've done in the past. But again, I think the Western world needs to step up a bit stronger. I'm cognizant of the time, so I'll hand it back to you, Sasha.
I totally agree with you, Shaquille, and I would like to mention that what you're saying about the reparations and many other agreements is if there would be a possibility to establish comprehensive peace agreement between Ukraine and Russia. This is, Ivan, you let me know if you agree with me, but it seems to me right now it's not even on the table. Right now, all the best what we can hope is a temporary ceasefire, whether it's for 3, 6 months, maybe 9 months. The other problem with the ceasefire or any agreement with Russia is that there is no power in the world that can guarantee that agreement will be exactly implemented. And we don't want to go into another Budapest agreement, which was nothing but piece of paper, and nobody wanted even to enforce it, and never mind to agree to all that. So I think that right now, it's almost August, we still hope that there would be some offensive from Ukrainian side, but only in case that it's well prepared and with very low risk to Ukrainian army and its personnel primarily. And we'll see, because I thought that Putin will prepare a major offensive against Ukraine before the F-16s and a lot of other ammunition is being delivered to Ukraine. So I thought that Putin will give the direct orders to attack on all fronts and so on. Maybe he wanted to do that, but he doesn't have an army to do that. So this is thank God. So Ukraine can slowly consolidate and prepare for all the help it's getting. And hopefully Russia is no longer capable to continue its attacks against Ukraine and its heroic people. And in the meantime, Ukrainian attack, I think in the long run, it's imminent, and we'll see how it develops. I would like to thank you so much, both of you, for helping to create this program. And hopefully we'll see you same place, same time on Friday. Bye-bye, everybody. Slava Ukraini.
Героям слава. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.